Welcome to the deep dive where we really just tear through the research to get you the knowledge you need.
Straight to the point.
Exactly. And today we are tackling a really essential challenge. It's all about replacing your intuition about learning with actual science.
Yeah, we're getting into the book Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning. And it really hits you with a central, kind of painful truth right from the start.
And that truth is basically that we, all of us, are probably wasting a lot of our effort when we try to learn the stuff that feels right, the traditional methods.
The lore.
Right, the lore. The book argues that it's largely ineffective. And the most powerful ways to make knowledge stick are actually really counterintuitive.
It creates this immediate disconnect for you as a learner. We're all drawn to things that feel easy and fluent. But the research shows that the learning we get easily is, well, it's the kind that's transitory. It just melts away quickly.
Okay, so to really set the stakes here, the authors start with this incredible example. This pilot, Matt Brown.
Right, he's flying a twin-engine Cessna at night.
At night. And suddenly the right engine's oil pressure just plummets.
There's a crisis moment. No time to look at a manual.
None. And he just runs this complex mental checklist completely from memory, shuts down the engine.
Feathers the prop, adjusts the power on the other engine.
And makes this critical turn to land the plane safely.
And that right there, that's what the book defines as true learning.
Yes. Acquiring knowledge and skills and then having them readily available from memory to solve a real problem later. So our mission today is to pull out those evidence-based strategies, the ones that give you that Matt Brown level readiness, and hopefully replace some of those old habits.
Okay, so if we start by looking at what most of us actually do, two strategies just completely dominate. You see them everywhere, from middle school all the way to, post-grad work.
And they're the most preferred, but also the least productive.
Exactly.
So number one, which is the absolute champion of wasted effort, has to be rereading text. The book says it's the go-to strategy for over 80% of college students.
80%. And right behind it is number two, massed practice.
Which is just single-minded, rapid-fire repetition.
It's cramming. Cramming for an exam right before you take it.
But okay, here's the question. If rereading feels so smooth and we all associate easy with being efficient, why doesn't it work? Why do we keep doing it?
That's the heart of the problem. It's what they call the fluency trap. Rereading and cramming, they generate this feeling of fluency.
A feeling of familiarity.
Precisely. You recognize the concepts, your eyes move faster over the page, and your brain mistakes that comfortable feeling for real, durable mastery. But it hasn't actually built the long-term connections.
That is painfully relatable. They use that famous penny memory test to prove the point, right?
Yeah.
You've seen a penny thousands of times, but if someone asks you to draw one from memory, you probably can't. That repeated exposure does nothing on its own.
It really doesn't. And that anecdote about the UCLA professor, that one just floored me. A professor, a professional learner, who had worked in the same building for 25 years.
25 years.
And he'd walk past the same spot every single day. But he had no idea there was a fire extinguisher right next to his office door until he took a safety class.
Wow. So all that daily exposure meant absolutely zero retention.
Zero.
So the core message here is that feeling of ease is actually a warning sign. The big claim is that learning is deeper and more durable only when it's effortful. Learning that feels easy is, and I love this quote, like writing in sand.
And that means we are all pretty poor judges of when we're actually learning well. So this is the point where we can kind of pivot from that frustration to actual solutions. If the easy way is a trap, then we have to embrace the harder, more effective way. The book calls them desirable difficulties.
Desirable difficulties. I love that phrase. The idea is that you're intentionally creating friction in the learning process that slows you down now but pays off with much better retention later. So what's the first big strategy?
The first one is simple. To learn, you have to retrieve. It's called retrieval practice. So instead of just passively reviewing a chapter, you actively have to recall facts from memory.
So you quiz yourself, you use flashcards, or you just close the book and try to summarize what you just read out loud.
Exactly. And the contrast in the results is, it's just shocking. The research shows that a single simple quiz after you read something produces better, longer-lasting memory than spending that same amount of time rereading it.
So why is it so much more powerful? What's happening in the brain?
Well, every time you retrieve a memory, you're strengthening the pathway to it. You're literally practicing the act of remembering it for the future. And critically, It also interrupts forgetting.
Okay, that makes sense.
And beyond that, testing is how you calibrate your own judgment. It's a diagnostic. It forces you to see exactly what you don't know so you can fix those weak spots immediately.
Okay, let's move to the second big strategy, which is all about scheduling, spacing, and interleaving. Space practice seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you just spread your practice out over time. You come back to a topic every so often. You even let yourself get a little rusty in between.
Interleave.
Interleaving is where you mix up the practice of two or more different skills in the same study session instead of doing them in separate blocks.
So for geometry, you don't just spend an hour on cones, then an hour on cylinders. You mix problems for both of them together.
Right.
But that has to feel incredibly frustrating and inefficient while you're doing it. You're constantly having to switch gears.
And that feeling of difficulty is actually the proof that it's working. The book talks about studies where students who interleaved practice problems for different geometric solids did way, way better on a final test. They got much better at picking the right solution for a brand new problem.
I love the real-world examples they use for this, like learning to identify different types of birds or different painters.
Yes.
If you interleave the practice, you look at a Da Vinci, then you immediately jump to a Monet, and your brain is forced to notice the subtle differences and the unifying themes.
It builds true understanding, not just rote memorization.
So the third strategy really just seems to be about leaning into that friction, doesn't it? Just embracing the difficulty.
That's it, exactly. They found that if you try to solve a problem before you're taught the solution, even if you get it wrong, you learn the material much more deeply than if you were just shown the answer first. Making mistakes is apparently part of the deal.
Okay, before we get into building those deeper connections, we have to talk about one very popular myth, the idea of learning styles.
Oh, yeah. The idea that you're an auditory learner or a visual learner and that teaching should match your style.
We need to be very clear for everyone listening. This popular idea that you learn better when the instruction matches your preferred style is it's not supported by empirical research.
Not at all. In fact, you're much better off drawing on all of your abilities, not pigeonholing yourself into one style.
And that connects to another common fear, that your brain can just get full.
Cartoon idea.
Yeah, you hit a wall and think, I just can't learn anything else. The book argues that's only true if you're stuck using mechanical repetition. The key to expanding your capacity is something called elaboration.
Elaboration is. It's like the brain's superpower. It's the process of giving new information, meaning by putting it into your own words, and this is the crucial part, connecting it to what you already know.
It's the difference between memorizing a definition and actually getting a concept.
For sure. So to understand air convection, you don't just learn the term. You connect it to your memory of why a cup of hot cocoa cools down, or why you feel colder after a swim in dry Arizona versus humid Florida.
You're making the abstract concrete and personal.
And that whole process of linking new knowledge to old knowledge is how you build what they call mental models.
Okay, so a mental model is like a simplified representation of how something works in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It lets you reason and act without thinking through every single step. The book uses the expert baseball batter as the perfect example.
Right. He has less than half a second to decide whether to swing a bat. It's not chaos to him.
No, his brain filters out all the noise. He's picking up on tiny cues, the pitcher's grip, the spin on the seams, and he has these distinct mental models for a fastball, a curveball, a slider.
And he instantly connects that pitch model to his stance, his strategy, everything. That's how he can perform such a complex action so seamlessly. He's built the models.
And this all leads to, I think, the most powerful argument for a growth mindset. So many of us believe our intellectual ability is just fixed. That if you fail a test, it's because you're just not smart enough.
But that's not true.
It's not. The reality is your brain physically changes every time you learn something. The things that shape your abilities, your strategies, your mental models are, to a surprising degree, actually within your control. You are not stuck with the brain you have today.
So let's try to synthesize this whole deep dive. If you want that Matt Brown level readiness, that real world knowledge, you have to move past the easy feeling of familiarity.
You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes, you have to intentionally embrace retrieval, practice quizzing yourself, and you need to space out and interleave your subjects. And above all, you have to build those connections through elaboration.
And when you connect that back to the growth mindset, understanding that learning is supposed to feel hard, it changes everything. Suddenly, failure isn't a stop sign. It's just information.
It's a clue that you need to dig deeper or try another angle.
Exactly. Setbacks aren't just normal. They're essential for getting better than you are right now.
Which means that feeling of struggle isn't a sign of a flaw. It's a sign that you're doing the hard, important work of construction. Making mistakes and fixing them is how you build those permanent bridges to a higher level of understanding.
The book makes a great point that we often quit right on the verge of a breakthrough. That moment of peak frustration is often the very moment the strongest, most lasting learning is actually happening.
Which brings us to a final provocation for you to think about. The next time you feel frustrated because learning feels difficult, instead of giving up, just ask yourself this: am I just having a temporary setback, or have I actually found a desirable difficulty that's building a stronger, more permanent path to mastering this?
Because how you answer that question, how you frame that struggle, that could change everything about what you're capable of.